we are talking to the president of the Greater San Fernando Chamber of Commerce, Mr. Kiran Singh, and we are going to be talking about the benefits to San Fernando from the Cabinet Reshuffle, the recent Cabinet Reshuffle that was announced by the Prime Minister just recently. So good morning, Mr. Singh, and welcome.
Good morning. It's always a pleasure to be on TTT, and good morning to Trinidad and Tobago.
It is a pleasure to have you with us. You're always welcome here. All right, Mr. Singh, so let's dive right into it. We have a few new ministers. Reginald Armour, and he's the new Attorney General and Minister of Legal Affairs, and Faris Al-Rawi is now the Local Government and Rural Development Minister. Now, Mr. Al-Rawi is also the MP for San Fernando West, which is where you operate and your members operate. So tell us a little bit about your thoughts on the entire reshuffle, and especially Mr. Al-Rawi's position now as Local Government Minister.
Yes, well, as we know, the Cabinet appointments are under the purview of the Prime Minister, and as such, he would make appointments and removal of officers from his cabinet as he sees fit during the tenure of his government. As they are now into the second term of office, we see that there have been several changes. This is nothing unusual for governments as we follow the Westminster system, where the Honorable Prime Minister can appoint and remove ministers as he sees fit to ensure the proper governance of the country. And of course, we saw several appointments and removal of ministers from various ministries, the reassignment of different portfolios. Of course, the most significant one that will affect us is San Fernando. The MP for San Fernando, Faris, was the former Attorney General and is now the Minister of Rural Government and
Local Government and Rural Development.
And Rural Development, sorry. Yes. And he, we think that certainly, having been assigned the heavy portfolio as Attorney General for the last 7 years, that with the reassignment to local government, he will have more time to spend with us and the constituents in San Fernando West, because the new portfolio is somewhat lighter. But we know that what is going to happen, this is a election year for local government. So he's been thrust into a very key position within the PNM government to, I guess, ensure the smooth transition to the elections machinery of the PNM, and to ensure that they're ready for government. And with his legal background, we are hopeful that the local government reform, which remains our hot topic, it's been going on for several years by different governments, that we will see some fruition of some of the issues that affect the different cities and boroughs with respect to local government. And we would want to see Mr. Al-Rawi's input into the legal framework to ensure that we are able to benefit from local government reform as we lead up to the local government elections within a few months.
I think, Mr. Singh, I think we will agree to disagree where you say that it's a lighter portfolio because, local government, we have the local government reform as we spoke of earlier. There's a lot of work to be done in that ministry. However, what are some of the expectations of you and your members with regard to the Minister Al-Rawi, and how would it benefit you and your members?
Of immediate concern to us in San Fernando is the projects that were started under the MP for San Fernando West, which is the San Fernando Waterfront Redevelopment Project, Skinner Park Project, and the Family Court building. These three mega projects are certainly most concern to us here in San Fernando. We want to see these projects continue. Now that he's been reassigned to a new portfolio, we really remain hopeful that these projects will continue. We all know that successive governments over the years have spoken to the issue of starting a waterfront development project, and it has only started under the MP just a couple of years ago with the road widening network to ease the congestion of traffic that comes and leaves the city. Is a perennial issue of traffic, and it affects business, of course. Business activity, you hear business owners, customers, um, shoppers, visitors to the city complain about the traffic to enter and leave downtown San Fernando. And of course, under his worship, the mayor, we were able to see certain streets um, made two-way, ease up some of the traffic congestion with easing up the flow of traffic into and out of the city as well. And that has certainly improved the flow of traffic into and out of the city. Skinner Park, that park, which we can't call it that anymore, for 100 years it remained dilapidated, unattended to, and it has now significantly progressed in terms of development. And we would want to see the speedy conclusion or completion of Skinner Park so that we can return to sports and activities, recreation. The youths especially need sports and activities. We have sport and tourism. We have the recent accomplishment by one of our very own trainees to win the 400 meters. Gives us added impetus to complete Skinner Park to ensure the youths have greater access for development of their physical skills, and it will ensure that Trinidad and Tobago remains on the map in terms of sporting and other activities.
Yeah.
We also need additional court space. The judiciary complains regularly about the lack of space. Courtrooms are being shared and so on. And with the development of the family court in San Fernando, it will ease the burden and speed up the flow through of cases that come through South Trinidad.
And I know one of the most recent issues that was highlighted is the issue of security in San Fernando area. Has that been addressed? Is it being addressed now?
We have had several meetings with His Worship the Mayor, the Senior Superintendent of Municipal Police, and the TTPS, as well as the Acting Commissioner, Jacob, visited us on 2 occasions within recent times. Of course, we know that we remember the very sad incident where an employee of a jewelry store was murdered on a Saturday morning in broad daylight in front of customers, business owners, and so on, and they ran off. Of course, the hard work of the police service ensured the capture of these criminals, and we were able to do that in a very short space of time. We saw increased police presence, and of course, we continue to work with the MP and the mayor to ensure that the police presence continues, because everyone knows that when there's an increase in criminal activity, there's a decrease in business activity, and that the only way for business to survive is to work with the police service to ensure that the police service gives their full duty to not only the business community, but the pedestrians, the citizens that they were sworn to protect. And we see that the police presence has increased, and it continues to remain so as we go along our daily routines in San Fernando.
Now, might I just admit that San Fernando is one of the areas in Trinidad that is actually one of my favorite areas to visit. So I'm really happy to know that, there's some sort of advocacy and work being done between the chamber and the police service as we continue. Switching gears a little bit, let's talk a little bit about the chamber and some of the programs that are happening that you all are pursuing now as a chamber for your members and for the citizens of San Fernando.
What we have established some time ago was a business incubation unit for young persons, especially those wanting to venture into the entrepreneurial arena, that they can seek guidance from the senior business persons, companies, to get advice on how to start business, how to secure capital, how to secure investments, how to seek out new markets for business opportunities. That is very necessary in San Fernando. We know that with the recent, well, it's not recent anymore, but when Petrotron was shut down and it was diversified into other companies, a lot of former workers still remain on the breadline and they would be seeking some form of employment, some form of opportunity to ensure survivability of themselves and their families. And the business chamber, the San Fernando Chamber of Commerce, certainly feels a sense of responsibility to ensure that these persons can be gainfully employed, that they can return to productive lives, that they can invest in their own futures. Um, Employment levels, unfortunately, we may see increases in that due to inflationary pressures. We have the impending, not impending, but the invasion of Ukraine by Russia is going to have serious negative impacts on our economy because energy prices will rise. We are energy player. That will cause inflationary costs on Trinidad and Tobago. Our gas prices, the Honorable Prime Minister mentioned that we may see an increase in gas prices. And anytime there's an increase in transport, there's an automatic increase in inflation across the board for all goods and services. And we must be mindful of that. A lot of citizens initially would have been quite happy to hear that we will be increasing revenue gains from oil and gas prices. While that may be true, the counterbalance or the counter argument to that will be seeing an increase in inflation. And we've already seen that in the basic increase in prices for basic commodities such as bread and corned beef. And these are basic food items that economists will tell you that a household needs to survive. And how do we counteract with that? Nestle has increased the prices of their dairy products. We see signals from other companies where we're going to see increased prices of products. And that brings me to a point where, with the reassignment of Mr. Hussein, Senator Hussein, to Minister of Agriculture, he being a Southerner as well, that we would want to see the initiatives continued in the Ministry of Agriculture to encourage young entrepreneurs to get into hydroponics as a point to ensure that they can get gainful revenue from investing in low cost, low demand capital projects that requires very little land space or arable space. We can use the rooftops of commercial buildings as an example to take advantage of the weather patterns of the country, as well as utilize empty space for very little cost, and it can self-sustain some of our buildings within the city and within the country for that matter. So it takes the kitchen garden concept out of the backyard to the city center, and it reduces the demand for the foreign exchange, which continues to be quite a serious issue for us here in Trinidad and Tobago, as our revenues, we know we will not see it increasing for some time.
Yeah, it sounds like we have some challenging times ahead, and maybe your members are having certain feelings looking at what is going on internationally and even locally. But I just want to thank you, Mr. Singh, for joining us here on the Now Morning Show. And I hope that you have a great day today, and we make San Fernando one of the better cities in Trinidad and Tobago. Any final thoughts from you, Mr. Singh?
Well, let me say, we are the number one city in Trinidad and Tobago. And we have the best deals to offer. We have the best promotions. San Fernando still is the safest place to shop. And to come down, we are pretty safe. And the issues of parking and wrecking and ticketing has been dealt with at the very senior levels of the police service to ensure that citizens get a break when they come in the city and they're not ticketed or victimized by very zealous police officers, but they ease the burden of shoppers and business persons coming into the city. And we look forward to your presence as well, where we will give you the red carpet treatment coming into our beautiful city.
I definitely look forward to that, Mr. Singh. All right, thank you so much. And viewers, we come back with more just after this break.